Hey guys, this is Frozen Things Stews here, and welcome back to another movie review. And today, I am going to be doing a review on Gran Turismo. So, Gran Turismo is the latest video game movie. Not a video game adaptation. It's rather kind of like Tetris, where it's a video game movie, but more of a true story than a movie that adapts the game. And it's directed by Neil Blomkamp, the same director who made District 9, which is a masterpiece. Elysium, which is okay, in my opinion, and Chappie, which sucks. He also made Demonic, which I have never seen. I might watch it at some point though, so I can rank all his movies on my Instagram page, and it stars Archie Madekwe, David Harbour, Orlando Bloom, Digimon Honsu, etc. And Gran Turismo tells a story, tells the true story of a gamer named Jan, who once dreams of becoming a racer, but then his parents, his particularly his dad, like discourages him from doing his dreams because it's not reality. Like it has nothing to do with reality. And he thinks that cars is like racing cars is dangerous. But one day, Yana gets accepted into the academy for racing, and is being taught how to drive a real race car. How because Orlando Bloom's character, Danny, if that's last name, once has this idea to bring video game racers to real life racing. Because if you're a champion, for video game racing, can you actually do it in real life? That's basically the whole premise. And then we got Jack Salter, a retired racer who trains the racers, and they race, and that's basically the plot for it. If you're wondering my thoughts on the Gran Turismo game, I think it is such an excellent game, and it's probably like an honorable mention to my favorite game of all time. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite games, but it is such a very enjoyable game, and I'm a huge fan of racing games. Mario Kart would be my favorite game to me personally, with this new film, like Gran Turismo, even though I like Gran Turismo, I mean I honestly was really hyped for this one as a film on its own, just not really as a gamer. I'm not really that big into video games, if I'm being honest. I like video games, but I think there's like some better stuff to do. I'm personally more of a movie geek than a video game geek. Because movies are movies, and movies are movies, and honestly, video game movies and nowadays have been on such a roll. Yeah, I pretty much mentioned some great video game movies of the year. Like in my previous video, I talked about how great video games are. Like video game movies are this year, like with Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, like Twisted Metal, and the upcoming Five Nights at Freddy's. But one video game movie this year, one amazing video game movie this year, I forgot to mention, is Tetris, which is a true story about pretty much a true story about the founder of Tetris, which is such a great concept. And Tetris is right there among my favorite video game movies. I didn't say video game adaptations. Video game adaptations are pretty much video games where it's stripped right from the game. With Last of Us or Mario, they're both like pretty much stripped right off the game. They have the same plot as the game and the same world and the same characters, but with something like Tetris, it is a movie from the game, but it's not really like adapting from it. So yeah, I do have to. Some people say that Gran Turismo is not a video game movie. Well, technically, this movie does. This movie does have the same title and concept of a video game, but just the story, it just doesn't really have anything to do. It's more of like Tetris, where it's a true story but and a video game movie at the same time. Yeah, and I gotta say, the trailers for this movie had me really sold for it. Just this whole concept of a racer becoming a gamer, racer becoming a gamer. Yeah, I mean, not me, not my bad. I mean, a video gamer, like playing the game in real life. Like I really love this concept. It's very unique and stuff. It's kind of like Pixels, Pixels, the movie where like gamers play the game in real life. Yeah, I mean, I would say that Pixels is a guilty pleasure. I don't hate Pixels. I just wish that Adam Sandler and Kevin James were replaced, and the movie would have been better. Like we're better. But Pixels is underrated in one of my guilty pleasures. But Gran Turismo is basically like a more realistic version of Pixels. Yeah, I mean, I know like I know you don't see the similarities, but Pixels is also a movie where people play video games, but then later on they play the game in real life. The game in real life. That's pretty much why it's similar. But yeah, anyways, now as for the reviews, yeah, sadly the critics were not a fan of this one, as this movie only got a whooping 62% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty harsh in my opinion, because it can be like that average of a movie. But the audience score is 98%, which is amazing. And this is why I trust the audiences far more than the critics, since the audiences know better. And after seeing Gran Turismo for myself, I gotta say, this movie was absolutely fantastic. I think this movie surpassed my expectations, even if I was high for this. Even though I was already high for this movie, it literally surpassed all of my expectations. I was expecting like I'm not gonna spoil my rating though, so I'm not gonna tell you what I was expecting from this. Even though I knew this movie, I was gonna like this movie. I didn't know I was gonna like it that much. Yeah. Like it that much. So yeah. Yeah, this movie is great. And I wouldn't say it's underrated, because it's I wouldn't say Gran Turismo is underrated, because a lot of people seem to like this movie. A lot of people seem to really like this movie and say it's really good. It's kind of like the bullet train. It's basically this year's bullet train when it comes to reviews, where critics where this movie didn't really have that great of a score on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audiences were really kind to it. And I heard like mostly good reviews about it. So yeah, Rotten Tomatoes isn't trustworthy. I know a lot of movies that like got really high ratings, but are panned by critics. So yeah. Now after seeing yeah, but yeah, I am 1,000,000% on the audience's side here, and this is most certainly one of the better video game movies. I still think that Super Mario Bros. Movie is the best video game movie of the year, but Gran Turismo is a close second. So yeah. Anyways, let's get to everything I liked about this movie. Everything I liked about this movie. It's just what makes this movie so great is how it's just incredibly entertaining from start to finish. There wasn't like actually I wouldn't say from start to finish, but this movie is incredibly entertaining. It's really fast paced. It's not really, and despite this being like a biopic, if you could call it that, it really goes like fast paced, and it knows its audiences. It doesn't want it doesn't want its audiences to get bored. It's afraid of its audiences getting bored, and you really want the audiences to get sucked into this movie. So yeah, the movie it's just full of racing scenes. Like the racing scene almost feels non-stop. Like there's one racing scene, and then after this racing scene, there's another racing scene, like very fast. Unlike some movies where it's just racing scenes, drama, racing scene, drama, racing scene, drama. For the most part. And I think this might have some of the most unique racing scenes ever put to film. I still think Ford versus Ferrari has the best racing scenes, and that movie is still the best racing movie, by the way. Ford versus Ferrari does have the best racing scenes, because those racing scenes are very heart pounding. It really made me cheer. Gran Turismo's racing scenes, I wouldn't say they made me cheer, but I wouldn't say they made me cheer, but they really did they really did leave me on the edge of my seat. It's such a blast. It's such a blast to sit through, and and you really do root for the main character, which is one thing that really makes the racing scene stellar. Which I'll get to the main character later, but yeah. And also, one thing I love about racing scenes, one thing that makes a racing scene stand out from other racing scenes is the style of it all. Like this, the racing scenes are very stylized, and they're just so unique. Yeah, they're so unique. Yeah, I mean the visuals make this movie look like a racing an actual game. Like you really feel like the actual video game because of how this movie just because of how this movie uses its style with its video games and yeah, they really make the racing scenes more exciting. Yeah, there was one particular sequence in the final race scenes where the car like pretty much splits into pixels like you see pieces of the car floating floating in the air, like breaking into pieces that look like Tetris blocks, and then it suddenly cuts to Jan, which is the Jan with Jan in a scene earlier on in the film where Jan's father was like asking him while Jan, like in the scene towards the beginning, somewhere in the beginning where Jan is racing his father asked him like, why aren't you like going on a straight line, and he says, there's a pattern, a strategy where he can just overtake the other cars. And then that pretty much that pretty much motivates Jan to actually like pull off the strategies in real life, and then so when the car and then when the entire flashback scene ends, the car the car pieces are put back together, and we see Jan just pulling off that strategy. It's hard to describe what his strategy is. It's kind of complex, hard to explain, but yeah, I gotta say it's absolutely clever. And yeah, that was a genius right there. And those visuals of just the floating cars really blew my mind. Yeah, they freaking blew my mind. I was like, whoa, how did they do that? Yeah, and and even like this, even art styles that really makes me feel like it's being taken from the actual Gran Turismo video games. Before the race starts, there's like this menu, this introduction, and then it shows the name of the country that really feels like it's being taken from the Gran Turismo video games. And then and then during the race, this pretty much shows up in all the races. You'd see this arrow pointing at Jan's car, and pretty much try to let the audience know which place he's in, and that is a clever move. That first of all, yeah, that is one thing that makes this very faithful to the video games, and you really very faithful to the video games by just showing his where he is, and that actually makes you want to root for him further, because you're very curious to see what's the status of him, where he's at, and you really want him to push himself further. If he's in fourth place, then you really want him to go to first place. If he's in ninth place, you want him to be at least in the top four, because Jan had to be in the top, finish in the top four to be able to get his racing license. Thank God he did that. Thank God he did that. One thing I love about this movie is that there were some moments that were shocking. Like for example, this one gold car which is being driven by the antagonist, who is such a punk. By the way, such a punk. It pretty much crash. It pretty much flips over and crashes, and then you'll see the tire pretty much. And then the tire pretty much smashing Jan's car, and Jan almost got killed, man. Wow, that was such an intense, heart-pounding scene. But if that wasn't intense, shocking, and heart-pounding enough, there's a scene where a part of the track is basically like going uphill, like a very tight ramp, and so when the ramp and so it got the Jan's car to flip over and crash really hard. And my God, my audience had such a gasp. They were they felt so worried for Jan, and me too. Yeah, I felt so worried for him. And yeah, there's this whole scene of Jan getting injured and pretty much being sent to the hospital, sent to the hospital, and you know it was like before the climax, like somewhere the third act. So there's like a lot of drama and tension, and man, you really feel it. I actually got emotional. I actually got teared up. And yes, guys, this movie is emotional. This movie is emotional. Like there's a scene where where Jan was preparing for the final race, and then his dad like came inside, and his dad went in and gave him a huge hug, and yeah, gave him a hug and comforting him, and you really feel like that bonding. It really made me tear up, yeah. And kind of like had a shed my tear just for the rest of the movie, like throughout the final race, and man, yeah. Now, yes, I've been talking about this movie as a racing movie, but let's try to judge this as a movie on its own now. How is this movie on its own? Like, what I love about this movie is that it's very relatable as well, particularly with the main character Jan. Like, you know, yeah, sure, this movie may be a racing movie, but it feels more personal. Like, so you don't have to be a racer to relate to this movie. Jan is relatable because you know he's someone who with a dream, who's being neglected by his parents. You know, Jan's just like, oh, I want to be a racer, but his dad was like, hell no, you can't be a racer because it's not realistic and it's dangerous. And so, but Jan like still pushes himself to be a racer, and he wants to prove his parents wrong. That you know he prove his parents wrong, that he is worthy to be a racer. And there are people who wanted to be in a certain profession that yeah, those people who wanted to be in this certain profession where they think I'm this but how do I say that certain profession where you know they have a dream that other people would say, oh no, that's impossible, you can't do this. That's pretty much how relatable it is. Like I've had instances where I wanted to do something but like so badly, but my parents were like, no, you can't do this, yeah, because you're not worthy, or they'll just give some reason. So if you're like that, you can actually relate to Jan, and that's you can actually relate to Jan. And yes, Jan is just a well written character throughout the movie from start to finish. And that's actually why you root for him. When you root for a main character, that goes to show how well written your main character is. And I also like love this girlfriend, Audrey. Now, the one concern I had with this movie was that there's gonna be like some forced romance in this movie that was gonna drag the movie down. Like ever since we saw like you know in the trailers where we see like Jan and Audrey in Tokyo like dating and kissing. I was like, oh, is that gonna ruin the movie? Not at all. It's in fact it left a smile on my face. There's a scene where you know after Jan is being has been promoted to join the Team Nissan and sign a contract in Tokyo. They pretty much you know gave him like a treat to have him and him and Audrey like go on a date to Tokyo. Go on a date to Tokyo, and I gotta say that actually might be my favorite scene in the whole film, and that's really surprising. Yeah, like first of all, my Tokyo trip back in 2017 was one of my favorite vacations I've ever had, and so yeah, it was such a very nostalgic experience. So seeing Jan and Audrey together really left a smile on my face, and really had like so much charm to it. So much charm, and I really did feel the nostalgia. Like you know, you see like you know exploring Tokyo cultures, trying sushi for the first time, which sushi is in my top 10 favorite foods of all time, by the way. And just you know having them being a party and kissing, yeah, very like you know such a cute romance scene, yeah, such a cute romance scenes. Okay, well thinking about it, maybe I wouldn't say it's my favorite scene, but I'd say it's rather my favorite scene that doesn't involve racing. Since the final racing scene is the definitive best scene in the film, in my opinion, the racing scene. And Okay, is there anything else? Oh yeah, and as for the other characters, I love seeing Orlando Bloom in this one, and Orlando Bloom, literally in a movie that isn't really a fantasy or something like that, because I don't remember if I saw Orlando Bloom in a movie that is like this realistic, because I mostly like know him as someone who would be in fantasy movies, like he was in both in the Lord of the Rings, the Middle Earth saga, to be honest, because he's like one of those characters who pretty much appeared in all Middle Earth movies. The only one where he didn't appear in was The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey, which is the weakest Middle Earth movie in my opinion. Um, but yeah, Orlando Bloom appeared in there. Legolas is still his definitive best performance, in my opinion, and also the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So in fact, the last movie I saw him in was Pirates of the Caribbean, Ten Men Tell No Tales, or actually no, Salazar's Revenge. That's a better title in my opinion. For Pirates Five, in my opinion. So so to see Orlando Bloom in like to take on a different kind of role, this feels very refreshing. And then we also got Digimon Honsu, who's a character. I don't remember his name, but honestly, he's now in my top 10 favorite movie fathers of all time. He is such an amazing father, especially when at first he neglects him and from his dreams and says that racing is bad or racing, but later on he learns that he learns to accept that his son Yan is a racer, and man, that is such a great fatherhood, a great kind of father to Yan. But my favorite character in the movie is no competition. Jack Salter, played by who is now my favorite actor of all time, David Harbour. Yeah, David Harbour is now my favorite actor. He's like the guy who was in Stranger Things. He's now my second favorite Stranger Things character, second only to of course Max Mayfield. Do I need to say it? And I also loved him in like pretty much most of his roles. Even Hellboy, I think he's actually pretty decent in Hellboy, despite that movie sucking. And Jack Salter is honestly tied with Red Guardian as my favorite favorite David Harbour movie role. Yeah, Jack Salter had such a very interesting character arc where he actually used to be one of those racers, but then got into a freak accident, the same accident that Ian had, which I talked about early on in this review. And but then like he quit racing, and now he must live his life as just a regular person who wasn't able to succeed in his dreams, and now he is just a grumpy guy who becomes a coach to the racers, and must have Jan try to live up to what he didn't accomplish, what he failed to accomplish before. And I love that character arc, and you really feel his character all the way from start to finish, and you really root for him to be such a great mentor to Jan. Yeah, he's one of the reasons as to why you root for Jan, because of how great of a mentor David Harbour's character is, and yeah, like love David Harbour. And is there anything else I want to talk about? Yeah, and honestly, yeah, oh yeah, I love to see a prequel slash spin-off to Jack Salter's character when he used to be a racer back then. I'd be down for that prequel. Now, I will say though that as much as I've been praising this movie, I don't think it's 100% perfect. As I feel like the first 30 minutes was beginning. The first 30 minutes of the movie was dull and forgettable. Like I was just really bored in the first 30 minutes, and I was like kind of worried that this movie wasn't gonna live up to expectations. Like it was like there was like some great stuff to it. There's some great stuff to it. Like in the very beginning when they show the GT game being developed and trying to like translate it into real like racing, like how the creator tried to translate the real racing into a video game, which is just clever. And And yeah, but so, other than that, I just didn't care about the first 30 minutes. It was slow. Even the racing scenes in the beginning, they weren't that exciting. Specifically, like when Jan was doing the video game racing, the Gran Turismo video game virtual tournament. I honestly didn't care about him. Yes, the visuals were cool, and they showcased it. Like there's some really cool effects, but other than that, I just didn't really care for it. And also the villain of the movie. Yes, there is actually a villain, and it's that guy who drove a gold car. But honestly, they kind of failed with that setup. And honestly, he's such a punk. And he's such a punk. All he does is just be like an a hole. Like he pretty much made fun of. He pretty much bullied Jack Salter in that dinner scene, and he like crashed Jan's car, which and but like he's supposed to be set up as this antagonist, but I feel like they could have done. I didn't care about this guy, but yeah, he is by far the worst character in the movie. But other than that, yeah, other than those flaws, Gran Turismo is such an excellent film. It's not a perfect movie, it's not a masterpiece, and it's no Ford vs Ferrari. But not gonna lie, I actually enjoyed this movie more than Rush. More than Rush, yeah. And yeah. So yeah. With that said, I'm gonna give Gran Turismo a 9 out of 10. I forgot to mention as well that this is the comeback of Neil Blomkamp after he made that disastrous Chappie and Demonic, which I have never seen, but I'm planning to watch it tomorrow actually. So also from my review of Gran Turismo, what is your opinion on this movie? Are you with me that this is one of the better racing movies and video game movies, or are you with the people who couldn't care less about this movie? Comment down below, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'm not quite sure what my next review is yet, but the next review that is planned is my review on the Equalizer, the first two films leading up to Equalizer 3, but that's like next week or 2 weeks from now because but that's not gonna be anytime soon. So I gotta see what my next video will be. But yeah, but anyways, yeah, stay tuned for whatever the next video is. Bye guys.